I thought that if I were to explain the French Revolution, I should look like, what is this? Um, I'm trying to look intelligent, and I thought stripes looked French with a turtleneck. I don't know, guys. Just, just keep. It's gonna be crazy. Now, okay, the French Revolution. Then we talk about the first French Revolution. And I should probably. Nah, won't chance of K-pop. Okay, the first revolution. Now you have to understand that the prerequisite to this revolution was Louis XIV. Louis XIV, he was absolutist and nationalistic and pro-Catholicism all the way. Uh, he repressed the people later on economically, also as well as religiously. And by the people, I mean the majority being the peasantry. Now, these people, um, oh yeah, now these people make up the majority of France. And it has been known that the nobles, remember the nobles didn't get taxed at all. Because the nobles weren't taxed, then it created like really intense um, class hatred. Does that make sense? The classes were clashing a lot because there'd be like the nobles who had like all the food and all the bread and all of the money, and then there'd be the peasants who had like ridiculous taxes. Like that's gonna be a problem continuously throughout this entire revolution is money. The taxes on the peasants were ridiculous. Okay. Now, this is the first one. Now this is the revolution from 1789 to 1792. This is the first French Revolution. Now this began with the French debt, and it was not only King Louis XIV, but it was also the 15th in the 7 Years' War. Now this debt accumulated over time, and it kept being brought onto the backs of the peasants. Now, first, what happened was the politics was taken to the people, which be the three general estates. Now these three estates were corrupt in itself because two of the estates, being the clergy and the nobles, would gang up against the peasantry. So the peasants, or not the peasants, or the bourgeoisie or the normal class who didn't have noble status would automatically be, anything they brought up would be shut down. Now because of this, they formed the tennis court oath, or they formed the tennis court oath, which then led to the National Assembly. Now, at the tennis court, they vowed and they created and they wanted a new French constitution. Now, in this constitution, one of the things they wanted was a limited monarchy, limited control, and the king, Louis XVI, refused to acknowledge the national embassy, which consisted of the bourgeoisie, the enlightened middle class, and he didn't acknowledge them. And so this brought on the storming of the Bastille. Now, in this, it was a raid on a prison, and it was cray, quite cray. All of us know about the storming of the Bastille. That was a major event, which then led to, and it basically it established the level of violence that the French revolutions would like habitually contain. Something that's what defines a revolution as a French one, most of the time, all of the time, is violence. Like that's something that's a recurring theme in every single one of the revolutions. I just said resolutions. Now, so many Bastille. So the peasants who continued to bear the burden of taxation created the National Guard in Paris, and they were basically like, "Hey, nobles, be scared of us." And the nobles were. The nobles were freaking terrified. This brought on the angst. Like, not even brought on. Like, they've always been class tension, but it brought around them, the peasants, the middle class, to do something about that. To be like, hey, you know what? We outnumber them. We can do crazy ass shit to these nobles. The nobles were like, oh my god, you can. So a lot of nobles went into hiding, a lot of nobles left, but a lot stayed. Now in this, because of the National Assembly, because of the revolution of the peasantry, the noble privilege was abolished, but the peasants were still expected to pay more, but the nobles still had to pay some taxes. And then on October 5th, 1789, a mob of Parisian women ganged up to the castle, the place of Louis the 16th, and was like, hey, you guys are having a feast. We don't have any bread. Give us bread. And they were like really pissed. And they went crazy. Girls are crazy. They had like pitchforks and knives, and they like came in and they marched and they were like done. And Louis was forced to return to Paris with a mob, including their family and his wife, Marie Antoinette. Now the National Assembly was like, hey, king, you're in a position here in which your life is at stake. And the king was like, yeah, I know. So they pretty much forced the king to acknowledge, not only acknowledge the National Assembly, but enable a constitution that had limited monarchy, and they established it. But the king still felt in his heart that France was wrong. He was like, France is corrupted because they want a limited monarchy, and like I don't like it. So he was gonna like flee to other countries to like gain support and like fight against rebellion. But they were caught at the border when they tried to escape. And then they were held prisoners of the state, which then ultimately led to the beheading of Marie Antoinette and King Louis XVI. But to make matters worse, their economy was there was an economic disaster of inflation, and everything was still jumbled up. They had no king. They didn't know what economic system they want. They didn't know what government system they wanted. They were just really unorganized. And on top of this, they declared war on Austria in 1792. Now with this, that brings around that is how like it came to be. And then the next thing has to do with the fact of the next part of this has to do with the confusion and the unsureness of the French and what the hell they wanted for a government system. They were this was also around Enlightenment time. Well, a few things. What was his name? Shit. All right. There became. What was his name? He wasn't Rousseau. His name started with an R, but he was like the main guy. Richelieu. Nope. It wasn't Richelieu. Just kidding. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. He basically was like, okay, in this new randomness of France, there's no Catholicism, there's nothing. They killed the nobles, they killed the churchmen, they killed anyone who was a possible threat to the stability of the state, or the stability, and there was the dictionary, which was what it was called. Oh, Robespierre. Jesus Christ. Robespierre was this guy. And there was a national convention. And they basically, like, scared the crap out of everyone. And the funny thing is Robespierre started out as like, hey, let's all do good things, and he was a good guy. And then he was like power crazy, and he was like a bad guy. Which ultimately, Jesus Christ. He basically, you can think Robespierre and the guillotine are just like this one magical and this Reign of Terror. Reign of Terror was freaking scary as hell. Reign of Terror and Jacobins. Robespierre was like a Jacobin, and he was the radical of the Committee of Public Safety. Committee of Public Safety, guys. Robespierre enabled it because he tried to like restore France, and this brought on the Reign of Terror, and which basically led to, I think it was 4,000 people died, if I remember correctly, and it was like so the Committee of Public Safety was like determined to like annihilate all of its rivals, but in the end, it annihilated not only its rivals but its like supporters, because they ended up just like Frenchmen killing other Frenchmen all the time. Like it was really bad. Robespierre fell, and he lost power in 1794, to his like own committee, and his head was cut off by the guillotine. And then after this goes into Napoleon. And the thing to remember about France is they have 3 revolutions. They have, and between each revolution, they attempt to establish some sort of they attempt democracy each time, and they end up going back to a monarchy. They're kind of like England, but not like England. Jesus Christ. Does that make sense? But they had 3. This was the first one. It goes revolution, Napoleon, revolution, some guy, revolution. Does that make sense? And right now we're on the Third Republic, which is like, but that was the first revolution. So think of it as Napoleon XVI, debt, bread. Peasants didn't have anything at all. Storm of Bastille, the beheading, the Reign of Terror, Max Robespierre, the Jacobins, and no religion. It was like reason. Catholicism was the thing that they didn't have. And then eventually, the Committee of Public Safety, that's an important term, and Robespierre fell in 1794. Oh, and Napoleon came out of that and conquered. Oh, so that was 11 minutes. I'm trying, sorry. So that was that. I tried, guys. I tried. At least I look attractive. Alright, well, I'll make another video.